Welcome to chess, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, so I came across a really kind of like funny looking title of a game on YouTube a minute ago, and so I thought I'd do my own little analysis on it. It's kind of known as the Eight Pawns Gambit. Yes, you heard that correctly. Basically, during this game, the guy like gives away all eight of his pawns, kind of. So it's seven pawns, but he's trying to give away the last one. Actually, no, he does give away. Yeah, he does give away the whole eight pawns. True. All right. Now this is an odds game, so it's the two players. So the two players are a guy named William R. Ballard. And he's an actually pretty strong chess player back in the middle to the late 1800s. This game itself right here is played in 1884, but he actually won a game against Henry Edward Bird. Now, as a lot of you guys might know, Henry Edward Bird has an opening in chess named after him, and it is the move F4. So any of you guys out there that might play, that crazy game with, starting one to F4, it's called the Bird opening. It's not like unsound. It's definitely not the best, because you're opening up your king. But it's definitely playable. There's a lot of like Kali systems and stuff like that come out of there. So it's somewhat solid. But yeah, this game right here was played in 1884, and it's between Robert R. Ballard and a guy named Joseph George Fagan. Now, I believe that they're related by marriage. I think that Ballard's sister was married to Fagan, if I'm not mistaken, or the other way around. So they're definitely like connected family type wise, some kind of way. Now I was able to get an actual picture of William Ballard, but I was not able to find one for Joseph Fagan, so that's why you see like the shadow guy. But they both, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, they both lived in England. They were both London residents. So I went ahead and put the England flag up there or whatever. Um, so uh, so yeah, if you guys are ready, let's go ahead and check this game out. Now, as you guys know, of course, he's missing a knight, so there's not going to actually be a certain type of opening that it will be. But I'll be mentioning when it comes up because there's an almost identical type of opening that it does kind of go into, and I'll be mentioning that. And I actually have a pretty cool Paul Morphy versus Henry Bird game that follows almost exactly these same lines. I'll be putting that down in the description and stuff, so you guys can take a look at that one if you want to. But if you guys are ready, let's take a look. All right, so we have E4 to start the game off. Like I said, we don't have an actual specific opening because the B1 knight is gone. All right, so we have E5, F4. So this is going to be most similar to the King's Gambit. All right, so we have E takes F4, knight to F3. Just typical, anybody who's out there that plays the King's Gambit, this is like very typical. Also, knight to F3 is like super common move to make. All right, so we have bishop to E7, bishop to C4. Now, like I said before, guys, this isn't an actual opening, but there is a game. There are actually a couple of games in the database that cover these exact lines of play. Now, when you are playing the actual King's Gambit, you are going to, and you actually have your knight on the board. When you get into this position here, like if we back up just one, this specific position here, where the bishop comes to E7, is known as the Cunningham Defense. So it's the King's Gambit accepted Cunningham Defense. And so, taking it back to here, yeah. And so it does follow kind of those similar type of lines. And this is the same type of lines that the Morphy and Bird game did follow as well. All right, so we have bishop to H4. Now, basically what we're trying to do as black here, we understand that F4 has been played, or even, in some situations you have F3. And so the main goal is to try to attack that broken king side as much as possible. So bishop to H4, of course you're hoping for, a knight takes H4 and then queen H4 when you're forced to, compromise your king's position or have to try to play something like G3, which, of course in this position, if we were just to kind of take a look at that variation real quick, you know, be something like this, and then you have check, and then I mean, of course, you're gonna have to move over here. There's not a way to block, and then you know, and so you now your king is in a pretty tough position, and the main problem in this situation is the fact you have this rook over here in the corner. That's it's going to be very hard to develop that. So you know, of course, as white, we're not going to go into that. All right, so we had back up one more. Okay, all right, and so we have G3, and so that just kind of puts a block to the bishop there. It doesn't go into all that badness that we talked about a second ago. All right, so we have F takes G3, trying to put a little discovery, a little cool discovery on the king here. So let's say, for example, white says, "Hey, man, you know, I'm trying to get castled, or you know, not trying to get, I'm trying to get developed, right? So like, man, I'm gonna free my bishop up to come out, and you might make a move something like this, right? Unfortunately, that's gonna be bad because then you're gonna have this move here, G2 check." And so, like I said before, that problem is that rook in that corner. So this move is coming immediately. Next move. Doesn't really too much matter what you do with the king. I mean, you move the king here, something like that. This rook is dropping. And so, you know, black has now gotten another piece for their troubles. So you definitely don't want to go into anything like that. All right, so we just have castles. All right, knight to h6. You know, of course, you're not going to go knight to f6 because that's just going to block the, you know, that's going to block the connection. So, like, if you have something like this here, you know, now you have blocked the connection, and you're going to have something like that. And you definitely don't want to give a piece back after you've, you know, generously been given a piece earlier in the game. All right, so you have knight h6. All right, d4, just trying to get a good center established. A majority of the time when people will play like a King's Gambit type of situation, they're hoping to get the best pawn center that they can. And you guys hear me talk about all the time, you know, d4, e4, d5, e5. If you can ever achieve it as white or black, you're going to have a really strong hold on the center of the board. And so basically what Ballard is trying to do, because he has given a piece away, he's trying to get as much compensation as possible for his troubles, you know, giving those pieces away. So he's going to want to, you know, develop his bishop like he did on this diagonal. He's going to want to try to free up his bishop to move. He's going to want to try to, you know, cover as much of these squares in the center as possible. Of course, not that one. But yeah. And so you have to play as good as you can to try to make sure that you can justify this piece being gone. Now, of course, usually when you're going to give somebody a piece, they're not as strong as you, so that's definitely going to help too. So let's go here. All right, so we have castles for black. All right, pawn takes g3. Bishop takes g3. All right, king to g2. We're just attacking that bishop, trying to have him back up somewhere. And so black goes ahead and they back their bishop up to d6, which is the most logical square. You might have some trouble if you pop it on this square. You're gonna have like rook coming over, putting a lot of pressure on this file here, and you know, you're gonna have, you know, possibly bishop takes and stuff like that. And I mean, you're gonna be kind of trapping your bishop a little bit, and then obstructing the ability of your queen being able to come out. So you definitely want to try to free this diagonal up as much as possible for this queen. All right, so we have rook to h1. Now, in this particular position, it was actually better to go bishop takes, because then that immediately damages your structure. And so we have bishop takes here, and then pawn takes, and then now this king is very open. So if we just kind of go into like a little small variation real quick, something like this, and then I mean, you can be moving king over like this, or even pushing pawn. Rook is going to be coming here. The queen's going to be starting to come up and stuff like that. So this is definitely a much more preferred position than to you know, play rook to h1. Rook to h1 is kind of just a little slow. It allows the queen. It allows black a tempo that you don't want to give. And so you know, black uses that tempo very wisely by playing queen to f6. And you know, the intention is pretty clear. You're trying to direct the queen to be able to check. you know, start to try to get this knight more in the game and stuff like that. Maybe move rook over, something like that. So it does allow a fork on e5, but like I said, that doesn't matter because you do have queen to g6 check. And as you guys know, there's only 3 different ways to avoid, you know, or deal with a check. You can either move the king out of the way, you can move a piece in the way to block, or you can take the opposing piece. Now, of course, in this position, there's nothing that's attacking the square the queen is actually on. So there's no way to take the queen. So you just have the 2 options. You can either move a piece in the way, you know, which would be like, you know, knight g5 or bishop g5, or that's it. Or you have to move the king out of the way. So, you know, in this position, you have to kind of move the king out of the way. So we have king to f1. All right, and we have knight to f5. And so that threat is, it should be pretty clear to you guys that this knight wants to come here and cause some havoc against the rook and the king. So we have to try to, you know, get something figured out to try to prevent that. Because, you know, as white, we definitely don't want to be losing a bunch of material. All right, so we have rook to g1, just kind of putting a question to that queen there. And so if I just back up a touch here. So we have this position. Some of you guys might be sitting there thinking, why, damn, you know, some of you might be thinking, oh, okay, so I mean, I'm gonna lose the rook if I don't move either the rook or the king, right? But it's like, well, can I just try to grab a bishop because, you know, I'm gonna be losing something possibly, right? So like, let me just try to see if I can get some material back. And so let's say we just go ahead and take, you know, queen or pawn takes d6, right? And so of course you're gonna run into the variation we talked about as far as knight to g3, and you're gonna want to, you know, either go up or, you know, just let's say you want to defend your rook. You know, you're gonna have a situation like this. There's actually kind of a little cute move here that black has that kind of seems like it gives a pawn away, and it's b5. Now, for those of you that don't really understand what b5 is, go ahead and like stop the video real quick, catch up with us in a minute, and you know, just kind of see as white, what would you do in this particular position? You're just gonna take the free pawn? You're gonna try to counterattack some kind of way? Like, what's your idea? You know, as far as like, you know, what you would do in this position? Because I mean, to me, you know, it just kind of looks like a free pawn, right? You're thinking, okay, well, I mean, I'm c3, 4. I mean, I'm still down a piece, but I mean, I can get, you know, at least a pawn back, right? And so, I mean, this looks pretty tasty, right? So I want you guys to take a look and think about it and see, like, you know, what you would actually do in this position here. You're going to take the pawn or not? I'm interested to see what some of you guys would do. Okay, so you guys are back with us. Everybody's back together. I'm going to actually show you the problem with taking this pawn. So let's say, for example, somebody throws their pawn up and you're like, man, okay, it looks like a free pawn. Like, it looks kind of tasty, right? So take the pawn or whatever. So you're like, all right, cool. Yeah, I'm down material. So, you know, actually, we're not even down material. We're even material. So it's like, okay, we each have 5 pawns. We each have 5 pieces. Okay, so we're good. I mean, I'm down a couple of pawns, you know, a pawn, but, you know, like I'm doing okay. Like I'm starting to get some material back, right? Well, unfortunately, you actually don't in this position because if you guys remember what I talked about in my other videos, I always talk about undefended pieces, right? Now, the bishop was undefended before, but it's still currently undefended. And it's a problem because of this move here. Queen to h5 check. Okay, so now the problem is you have a double attack in this position and then you have a check like I was talking about before. Ooh, accidentally did that. Bam. Okay, fixed. Okay, and so you have this check on the king and you also have this attack on the bishop. And like we were saying before, there's only a couple different ways you can get out of check. And in this particular position, you have the knight only you can move in the way, but of course that drops the queen because, you know, we're kind of x-raying through this knight. And so you're going to have to move the king either to this square, or even maybe move knight back. But even any of those scenarios, you're just going to pick up this bishop. And so let's just say, for example, we try to, you know, just do the safest thing. We're going to be dropping this bishop here. And so now this is a pretty bad position for white. It was already bad at the start because it gave the piece away, but yeah, this is looking kind of iffy. So it's back up here. All right. All right, so we go ahead and just play rook to g1. We still have the knight check on g3. So we move up. All right, so we have knight to e4 check. King moving over, but it's cool because, you know, the knight is holding this this rook. So you don't have to worry about all that. All right, so we have bishop to b4 check. c3, just logical blocking of the bishop. But now we have knight takes c3 with an attack on the queen. So you're gonna have to rectify that. All right, so we have b takes c3, bishop takes c3 with check on the king. All right, so we're just moving the king. We're moving the king over, trying to get into like a legitimate spot. King to f2. All right, so we have queen. We have queen to c6, and you know, because we had to move the queen out of the way. The queen was attacked by this rook here, and so you know, you didn't have any options in this particular position. You had to move it over. The most logical place to move it to is to attack that bishop. Like I was saying before, guys, that bishop is undefended. And so, you know, it's just, you know, you can definitely get some good tempos on people's positions if they have undefended pieces and you're attacking them and everything. So, all right, so we're just going to move the bishop back here. We kind of have to give the rook away because we're just going to be losing too much material. If the queen, you know, queen takes and you have checks coming up and stuff like that, you don't want to be dealing with any of that stuff. All right, so we have bishop takes a1 and we have d5. This is kind of a cute little move here. I'm curious how many of you guys out there are going to be noticing, you know, what the idea behind this one is. Now, I was telling you guys before with that b5 move, looked like a pawn was just getting, you know, just giving a pawn away, right? Well, in this position, does it seem like white is giving a pawn away or not? So if you guys want to pause the video again and take a look and see what, you know, if it just looks like a free pawn, if you take it, it looks kind of tasty, right? You're like, man, let me just get that pawn, right? Go ahead and see if you could figure out if taking the pawn is legit or not, and then catch back up with us. Okay, welcome back. Everybody's cool. All right, so for those of you that came up with actually taking the pawn, there is actually a tactic called the discovered. It's part of a discovered attack, but it's also a discovered check. A lot of the times when you have a file that the queen is on, or even a rank that the queen is on, and it's opposing another queen, and you have a bishop in the way, you have to be very careful that that bishop cannot deliver check to your king. And so this particular situation right here, if you were to take this pawn here, it's going to fail horribly to this move here. Bishop takes h7 check. Now, as you can see, the king is in check. So the only possibility in this position is to move the king over to this square. But the major problem is the fact that you have this queen completely undefended, and you've just discovered an attack on the queen while at the same time attacking the king. And so this queen is going to drop. And so you guys have to be very careful when a bishop separates two queens on a rank or a file, because if it is the same color bishop that your king is on the square, you have a possibility of being discovered attacked. So you definitely don't want to be dropping your queen in these positions. So we just back up here. So we got d5, and so black sidesteps that by playing queen to b6 check. All right, so we have an attack on the queen, bishop to e3. All right, so we have queen to b2 check. So, you know, we have to move away. We have to, you know, get the king in a safe spot. All right, so we have f5. Okay, something I want you guys to be paying attention to here is, first of all, the major thing in the situation is the fact that black is an entire piece up, right? And there are quite a bit of pawns up, right? But the problem is they're only actually using their queen and their bishop at the moment. And so, you know, something I talk to you guys about a lot is using all of your pieces, making sure you develop. And if we were to do a piece count, a true piece count, we have 6 pieces for black and we have 5 pieces for white. But if you guys are looking, this rook, let me just double, yeah. This rook, this knight, this bishop, and this rook have not been moved other than the castling of the king the entire game. So it's really kind of like white has 5 pieces and black has 2 pieces because that's all they're using now. And then this knight, it's going to be very hard for the knight to come out because, of course, this square is attacked by the pawn. And then, you know, you develop the knight here. It's going to be really kind of hard after bishop takes here. It's going to be some damage to your structure. So in this particular position, instead of f5, you know, queen takes a2 is a much better alternative. So that, you know, you can protect this square and be able to take back with the queen. And, you know, so you'll probably just run into a situation like, let's say, rook to g2, just trying to separate the queen. So you're still going to try to hold on to this bishop, so you want to go queen to a5. And so you might have a situation like this here, trying to, you know, swing the rook over and attack the queen and the bishop. And so to prevent that discovered attack that I was talking about earlier, you would want to make a move like g6. Now, you know this move is coming. There's not really a lot you can do to defend against that particular move, right? But you definitely want to defend against that you know, that check. And so we have something like rook over. You take here, and because the bishop has to stop here, there isn't that threat on the board. And so give the bishop up, but then you're able to develop your pieces. So yeah, white and black both have the same amount of pieces, but the major thing is the pawns. Like I said at the beginning, it's an eight pawn gambit game. So, you know, black has 7 pawns and you have 1. So all things being equal, that's not where you want to be at. So let's back up. Okay. Back to here, right? And so we have f5. Now the problem with f5 is the fact that this queen here is attacking this bishop, and you know, the queen is on the same diagonal as this as the bishop, right? And so unfortunately, white has this move, bishop to d4, exploiting the fact that the bishop and the queen are on the same diagonal, that this bishop is defended by this knight, and this queen is also attacking that bishop there. So that basically just loses an entire piece. And so white is now able to kind of get back the piece that they lost a little bit. All right, so we have queen takes a2, bishop takes a1. And so now in the position, you have the piece count is equal. You have 2 pawns, so you're still down a bunch of pawns, but you've managed to actually get a piece back. All right, so we have queen takes d5. Like I was saying before, there isn't any of those discoveries. All right, so we have e6, giving up a further pawn. G6, e7, just trying to clear this diagonal for your bishop and queen and stuff. All right, so we have rook to e8. You know, of course, you can't just give the rook away. It probably wouldn't even be the end of the world, but you probably don't want to do it. All right, so queen to e2, just trying to maintain holding on to that pawn there. All right, so we have queen to c5, and I'm honestly not really sure what this is doing. Actually, no, I can kind of see the idea behind it. You want to take rook here. You know, you want to take this pawn with the rook here, but you know, the main problem is this diagonal, right? And so you have queen to b2, and unfortunately, like I said before, guys, you know, the fact that, you know, these pieces have never been used, it's almost like black is playing with their queen by themselves, and they have 5 pieces against the basically the queen. And so in this position right here, you know, you don't have a way to defend against the penetration of the queen into the black position. You don't have any way to put a pawn in the way. You can't really move this queen in the way anywhere. So this position is actually horribly bad for black. And so, you know, one of the only things you can really do is take with the rook here, right? But it's a day late and a dollar short, because we have queen to h8 check. And like I said, 3 ways to defend against the check: move the king out of the way, move a piece in the way, or take the piece. Since the queen is defended by the bishop, the only possibility in this position is to move the king. And so that's what happens. So we have king to f7, and then we have knight to g5, checkmate. Man, it's unfortunate. You know, I wish I could play a chess game where somebody gives me a piece. I think it's going to be a pretty good game for me. I mean, it's not for them, but for me. Basically, the main thing I want you guys to take away from this game here, is the fact that even though black was given a piece at the beginning of the game, it's kind of like when you sacrifice a piece, or when you're trying to rapidly develop your pieces. You have to always be thinking about any pieces that your opponent is not using. And so, like I said before, guys, we have a rook, we have a knight, and we have a bishop completely in the corner, and they've never been moved the entire game. And so that's the major issue that you have in this particular position. And so this is a very important lesson that you guys should be learning here, to always develop every single one of your pieces. You don't want to be pushing a couple of pawns to open your stuff up and then fling your queen out, and then your queen is playing the game by itself. Yes, the queen is a very strong piece, but it cannot take on an entire army completely by itself. So hopefully you guys develop your pieces good and you don't use your queen, even though it is strong and it's tempting. Don't do it. Use your entire army. I appreciate you guys coming and stopping by. Go ahead and hit subscribe and like for me. And let me know if there's any other games that you'd like for me to cover. I will see about making that video for you guys. I appreciate it.